You're watching the Chaos Protocol on Transplanar RPG, an all-transgender, people of color-led dark fantasy TTRPG show set in an original non-colonial, anti-Orientalist multiverse. If you like what you see, please consider pledging to our Patreon to support the show and get access to a patron-only after-show, early podcast episodes, GM notes, character sheets, and even the chance for your tabletop OC to cameo in our series. Thank you so much for watching, and enjoy. The Chaos Protocol is a dark fantasy series that may contain content that is triggering for some viewers. Content warnings for this episode include death of loved ones, grief, complex relationships and character dynamics, tattoo needles, blood, gore, fantasy violence, romance, flirting, kissing, smoking, sex, and references to hunting, alcohol, and substance use. Arc 3 Special. Ink on Canvas. Of all the paintings Mother cast into my grave, my favorite was the willow. It wasn't my most technically profound, nor the most critically acclaimed. It wasn't acclaimed at all, actually. I painted it in private, between soirees and galas, working by the rosy light of dawn streaming through my bedroom chambers. Even you never knew about it. The only person who ever saw it was Mother. 3 hours after you killed me, she came across it, tucked into the back of a closet. Underneath the moonlight, the painting resembled an ill omen. The roots were too silver and crooked, the leaves pale, bereft of life. The tree's reflection on the water seemed distorted, a simulacrum of beauty instead of a monument to the real thing. To her blurry eyes, the painting was more than grievous. It was the sound of an eager sword falling. She wrapped it with the rest of my things, shrouding it in white cotton sheets and burying it beneath the earth come morning. What she didn't realize is that the painting was never meant to be viewed by moonlight. I worked on it in the unalloyed hours of the morning before I was turned, before the threads of debt and desire could entangle me in their weavings. The painting was always meant to be seen under the bright light of day, where it looked as it should have. A proud, stately willow with a tired back, her 1,000 leaves like blades and tears. But in the sunlight, the subtleties of the willow's reflection in the river become clear. She's not standing on the bank alone. There are 3 children beneath the protection of her shade, laughing and playing. There is Yara, small and beaming. There is you, on the wooden plank of a swing. And there is me, pushing you, watching as you reach your small hand up toward the sky to touch the sun. Rhododendron. You sit on a tattoo chair. Music hums from speakers in this dimly lit parlor, but neither you nor the artist hovering over you need much light to work by. The needle of Diablo's tattoo gun works its way up your exposed collarbones. The resonance vibrates through your marrow, ringing up your sternum, making the insides of your skull jitter with thought, activity. Diablo's hazel eyes are focused, intent. His gaze is fixed on the masterpiece, carving its way into flesh. The white ink tattoo on your chest has always been beautiful, always been a blade's width from perfect. It depicts a intricate web, a web you designed together with Diablo. But now, it's time. It's time to deepen this art, to expand its meaning, its dominion. It's time to put ink to flesh. What extended design have you requested from Diablo, and how have you been sitting so far?
Rhododendron has asked to complicate the web further. Every time Ray looked into the mirror, it looked a little too simple. Like, the lines were too clean. You could follow one thread down and know exactly where it ended. But the more and more that Ro spins their own web, the more that the web of Inferno spins around them. It's more complicated than that. And they want to show it. And so Rhododendron has asked Diablo to functionally make a messier web, to add strands where there weren't before, to add illusions of paths that don't exist, to add dew onto the web, something living, something real onto it, and to add places where the web fades, places where it drips, places where clearly it has been interacted with. Hands have touched it, legs have touched it. Prey has been caught in it and then released afterwards. Something lived in. Something alive.
Well, the pain under your skin is certainly living. Diablo pauses over his handiwork, and that thin skin feels sore, burned, but in a way that feeds you. As a spider, you know more than most that all art has a cost. Pain is but a small price to pay for beauty, for transformation. Diablo wipes down your chest with a clean paper towel, then gives you an assessing nod. Ready for the throat?
I think so, though I don't remember this hurting as much last time.
Well, when was the last time you got ink?
Would have been years ago, I think, before... Well, you know, before everything.
Right. Well, your body will adapt. If that's one thing vampires and mortals are good at, it's adapting. And Diablo leans in, that freshly inked needle hovering over the hollow of your throat. Their hazel eyes flick up to meet yours. Breathe. And then the fang descends. It's painful, Ro. It feels like you are a prey animal being held in the jaws of a hungry wolf, but you can't run, you can't hide, you can't resist. All you can do is lie there. Let the teeth rake you, let the maw grip you. It's a vulnerable place to be. I myself, I was never tattooed. I never got the chance to know the Prince of Ink as you had. As the needle punches the fragile skin of your neck over and over and over, a memory surfaces alongside the blood and the fluid and the ink seeping out of your pores. It's a memory you know well, a memory you don't like to dwell on, but uninvited thoughts have a funny way of sneaking through the balcony window. This is a memory of the last time your neck, your voice, your language itself was lacerated. You are still alive. There is moonlight, and it is pouring through the balcony windows of my bedroom. Of all the rooms in the Thakrar Haveli, minus Willow's own abode, the quarters of one nasturtium Thakrar are the most extravagant. It is her birthright as heir, and she wears it with grace, if I do say so myself. The ornate rugs, the tall painted ceilings, the lavish sofas, the many tables and chairs carved from slabs of gleaming stone. Nasturtium herself doesn't need much to shine. He is beautiful. A jewel of Inferno, everyone says so. As he stands at the balcony, the moonlight streaming past his form, you see your brother in all his glory. The short brown curls, the well-trimmed beard, the elaborate kurta of richly brocaded silk. This wasn't my favorite kurta, but Mother insisted on it for tonight. Your brother's face is soft, gentle, not at all what one expects from a cunning spider. But you know that her expression is carefully arranged, intentionally disarming. Nasturtium persuades with elegance, insight, emotion, her words as finely dressed as everything else about her. He is only 21, only mortal still, and yet his ascent through the city cannot be denied. The role Nasturtium plays in the Crimson Tapestry demands such finesse, and Nasturtium is nothing if not fluent in the languages of this city, in the languages of this house. I took to it like a shrike to wing. You took to it like a lamb to slaughter. But as he turns to face you, Ro, as the moonlight frames his head like the promise of a halo, all of it drops away. The role, the mask, the affectation of gentleness melts into genuine softness. Warmth radiates from those dark brown eyes, an expression of warmth he reserves only for Yara, and only for you. And she says, in a rumbling but melodic voice like an autumn brook, if you'll forgive my navel gazing. Here to see me off, I presume.
Ro is laying on the bed with their stomach down, their feet up, and Ray's light brown skin is not yet marked by the weaving of House Thakrar. Ray is only 18 years old at this point. Their hair still long, curly, and black, but shorter because it hasn't had time to grow in yet. And they smile at their brother, looking at her, and fangs are missing from their teeth. Their hazel eyes look up and down through this beautiful kurta that, sure, you didn't pick, but, Mother did ask me for my opinion, and, well, it's the one I thought looked best as well. And I wasn't wrong. Looking at you then, looking at you now. And Ro gets up. They cross their legs on the bed and they chuckle. There's a bit of nerves behind that chuckle as they look at you. I wanted to make sure that I was here before your big night.
Always such a concerned little sibling. I'll be fine, Rhododendron. You know me. Probably be done with this faster than anyone else has in the history of our grand family.
Yeah, you think you can die faster than anyone else?
I bet, and I bet I'll come back faster than anyone else too.
We'll come back, right?
Nasturtium Astor takes you in, sees that vulnerability briefly on your face, in your eyes, and she takes a step forward towards you. There's nothing to be scared of, Rhododendron. I know it in my blood. I will come back, okay?
I would just feel better if I was allowed to be there,
You know how this is. It's tradition. Each of us has to go through it alone. Mother had to, grandmother had to, great-grandmother had to, and now I have to. And one day, you'll have to, too. And so will Yara.
I know. I know. And they straighten up and run their hands along their pants, trying to get some of the nervous sweat off of them. And they look up at their brother, at just how perfectly she handles this. And how none of this seems to bother him. None of it has ever seemed to bother him. And I feel so small and unsure in the wake of it. Like they are on the precipice, the edge of a cliff, and being asked to just trust that at the bottom there aren't scraggly rocks waiting to take everything away from them. So Ro, I think, takes a moment, chews something in their mouth that runs along their tongue, and they look back at Astor and they say, you know, just in case something does go wrong, you know, I just really want you to know that Astor, I love...
Don't be foolish, Ro. He takes a step toward you, but his words aren't scolding or acerbic. I hope that's not how you took them at the time. I hope that's not how you take them now. The words are soft, protective, and just a touch fearful. These words are a warning. You see it in her eyes. And gentle Astor goes on to say, you know this, Ro. Whatever you feel, it cannot be spoken.
I know, but...
There's no but about it. Look, I know you know this already, but humor me, Ro. And Astor settles into this kind of, not necessarily blasé, but light-hearted mannerism that you know very well, something to set you at ease, an oldest sibling affectation of protectiveness, of just look at me, look at how easy everything is, everything's going to be okay. But you're older now, Ro. You're no longer the 9-year-old who followed Astor around like a lost shadow. You know a little bit more at this point, and you know that light-heartedness masks something a lot more serious. And Astor goes on to say, I'm scared. Okay, you got me. I am scared about tonight. I know I'll be okay, but that mortal fear of death never quite leaves the body until it's all over, does it? Listen. And she leans in, conspiratorially, as though sharing a secret with you. Bidding you to lean your head in as well.
Ro leans in as well, and even then, even now, even when I was a kid, I always knew that affectation was nothing more than an act, a performance. I always wondered what it was that you actually felt underneath, what it was that maybe you wanted to say that you couldn't. Could you tell me now?
You couldn't figure it out then. It's up to you to see if you can figure it out now, Ro. And Astor says, will you let your older brother ramble about our house's misfortunes to assuage her own terror?
If it'll keep you here longer, then yes.
Astor's eyes glimmer with humor, yes, but also that firm insistence. She's always been so excellent at convincing people to listen to her. Not just you, but everyone around her. I guess it just came naturally to me. And this good-natured self-denigration about fear and reassurance masks the painful truth of the matter. That you, Rhododendron, are looming dangerously close to the edge of that cliff. And this is Astor's way of pulling you back from the brink. I did this for you. All the time. Now, I don't know if you realized it, especially when you were younger, so eager to wear your heart on your sleeve, where it is perfectly positioned to be shattered, and to shatter in turn. But this time you definitely know what I'm doing. I can see it in your eyes. You recognize this unspoken opportunity for you to save yourself and save face, and for both of us to connect. And your brother claps his hands together as you agree to humor him, and she says, "Well then, allow me to refresh my own memory of our family's founding. There was Dianthus, of course, and his oldest and closest friend, Luban. And then there was the fracturing of that bond, and from that fracturing, the curse. That which a spider loves destroys, and is destroyed. And so we don't. We must not. We can't, Ro. It's a matter of survival. We touch no one and nothing with our deepest affections, not our family, not our companions, not our crafts, not our interests, and by doing so, we spare them. And we spare ourselves. Doom hangs over our house like an eager sword, Ro, and there is no escape. The ancestors know we've tried. Great-grandmother even asked Tingsing to peer into the future of our house to find an end to this cycle of suffering, but you and I both know there was none. So, we do what we must. We play our roles in this performance that is life and unlife. We acknowledge the obligations and debts of the blood that binds us. What we can do, what we must do, is weave. Weave webs of influence and connection to ensure our survival in this unforgiving city. We can observe the things caught in our webs, yes, the places, the parties, the people, but we cannot touch them. Not ever. Our hearts must be museums. Do you understand, Ro?
I always thought the curse of our house was a folktale, a story that we told each other as children to prevent us from acting out. You can't tell me that it's real, that you believe it.
I believe that abiding by the terms of this curse has kept our family safe for generations. And every time one of our ancestors has attempted to act otherwise, there have been dire consequences.
And at dire consequences, Ro can't help but think back to their fear in this moment, the thing that's making them nervous, the thing that made them want to say those forbidden words in the first place, and that's Astor's life. If it's true, if there is even a sliver of a chance that not abiding by these terms means that Ro could be the cause, could set something in motion to bring about doom on their house, they could never. And so these words, the weight of them, I think hits Ro in a way that they never had before. They meant it when they thought it was just a silly story we told each other, but looking into Astor's hazel eyes and the seriousness with which he looks at them, that was the first time that I tried to be like you. That I tried to put on that mask that we're supposed to, because I wanted to make sure that you came back.
I saw that mask, Ro. I was so proud of you. finally looked a little bit more like me. A little bit more like what Mother has always ensured that we should be. That pride was matched by only one other emotion that you don't catch in this moment. It's a tinge of sadness.
Well, I guess in that case, good luck.
And Astor smiles at you. It's soft and it's sad. That tinge surfaces for half a second. I've only worn this smile a handful of times because it's real, and anything real in our house does not last for long. Thank you, Ro. And that smile is gone, and they are back to their confident, elegant self. Now, will you help me do my makeup?
Yes. And I think, Ro, you can see the way in which they are struggling to step into these shoes, step into this mask. It doesn't come naturally to them. It never has, and quite frankly, it never will. At least Ray doesn't think so. And so the lingering feeling in the air between them is of that affection, of that emotion, of those words that Ro is not allowed to say, that still hangs on the tip of their tongue like they want to. But they can't. But they want to. They want to.
Don't,
so...
Ro.
I didn't. But you can't blame me for wanting to anyway. I mean, my big brother was going to go off to...
I can't blame you, I never would. But Doom would. There's no blame when it comes to that, it just strikes.
And I won't invite it into our house. And so Ro happily helps Astor with their makeup, making sure that he looks absolutely stunning, the way that the heir of House Thakrar should. Everyone is going to be so jealous of you.
Oh, believe me, they were. You help Astor put on her makeup, and at the end of the hour, you step back and you take your brother in. Somehow he's even more beautiful than when you first walked into his room. And then he rolls his shoulders, glances at the angle of the moon in the night sky visible in the balcony beyond, and nods. It's time. Gives you that curt acknowledgement with the tip of the chin and strides toward the doors of his room. She lingers at the threshold, those slender fingers on the edges of that wood, and then tilts her head back at you, gives you a kind smile, tinged with humor, says, "See you on the other side."
And Ro just nods and waves, sitting on that bed, smiling, trying so hard to smile, fighting back the feeling welling up in their eyes, as Ray does.
Pain jolts you back to the present. The sharp stabbing of a needle against your neck, the burning sensation of ink beneath your skin. Diablo leans back, flexing the tendons of their working hand, and admires their progress so far. It's coming along nicely. Their hazel eyes meet yours, and Diablo tilts his head to the side just the slightest degree. Where'd you go, Rhododendron?
Ro's throat hitches like there is a breath caught in it, as if Ray was back in that bedroom with Astor, and Ray's yellow eyes blink twice, 3 times before meeting Diablo's hazel ones, and they gasp a little in the chair, trying their hardest to keep themselves steady, not sure yet if Diablo is finished or not. Still finding that feeling in their body. And Ray says, I went back to Astor.
You know, I had a feeling you did. And Diablo leans back in, putting the final touches on that piece by your throat, and you can certainly try, Jean, but you could never quite hide all of yourself from Diablo, could you? The man knows you too well. Even now. Even after everything that's happened. And Diablo says, casually, but there's genuine interest there. Anything in particular about Astor?
Wondering what it was like when she turned. I mean, you know my turning was a little bit different. What was yours like?
Mine was hard. Painful. You know some of the details, of course, but it's not a story I like to linger on. Figure you don't like to linger on Astor's or yours much either.
Death is death after all. We can be prepared for it, but that doesn't change the way that it feels when it comes for you.
No, it doesn't. You know that old saying, all vampires here are born of blood and teeth and grief. I guess in that regard, all three of us turn the same way.
I suppose that that's the one thing that we all have in common. The one thing that the river gave us.
The river. The river and its many blessings. And its many curses. And those hazel eyes flick up to you on curses, watching your expression closely.
And Rhod scoffs at that. It's a mirthless laugh that's not meant to be malice towards Diablo, but simply at the mention of curses. Some of us have more than others.
You are, of course, referring to the curse of House Thakrar, I presume?
The one and only.
Well, I know Astor was superstitious, but, you ask me? I think it's more one of those self-fulfilling prophecy situations. You know?
How can you tell the difference if the outcome is the same?
I guess there really isn't one. The thing about a self-fulfilling prophecy is, I guess you could break it.
Rhod takes that in for a second. Doesn't have an answer to it. I think maybe to anybody else, Rhod would have fought back, would have insisted, but not with Diablo. Never with Diablo. Diablo always had a way of getting into Rhod, really into them in a way that others couldn't. And so they allow that possibility to hang in the air between them, not daring to touch it, but letting it live there.
Alright, you're next done. Let's give your torso a break for now. Do your hands next. You up for it?
I think so. Can't be worse than what you just did.
And Diablo cracks their neck, adjusts their chair, and leans in. That buzzing starts back up again, and he presses the oscillating needle against the back of your hand. And pain bolts up your arm as you settle into this new dimension of hurt. That's both a reprieve from the intense pressure on your neck and a new kind of gorgeous awful. At least, I assume that's what it's like. I never got the chance to be tattooed, of course, but there's something undeniable about towing the line between pleasure and pain. It almost makes you feel alive, doesn't it?
It always did. I always found that strange, the way that hurting, or sometimes hurting someone else, can make you feel more like yourself than anything else.
Well, you're really taking to being a vampire, Ro. As the needle slides over skin and vein and bone and that terrible, terrible, terrible webbing between your fingers, you observe the art blooming across your knuckles. It stirs another memory, this one of color, blooming across the back of your hand. You are still alive. You are in a grungy, derelict subway tunnel. A literal underground concert is raging around you with a makeshift stage of milk crates and wooden slats, banged up speakers blasting music down this tunnel, and a young, hungry, raucous crowd. Yara would have loved this. Tells I would have loved this. The stage itself is up on the platform while the concert goers dance and shout and mosh in the literal pit of the rails below. Tonight, Rhododendron, you are one of these concert goers. But you're not in Inferno. Not at all. In fact, no one here gives you or your companions a second glance as you dance with the rowdiest of them. Here in Paradise, you are completely anonymous. You didn't know where Diablo was taking you. He'd just said it was somewhere far from the dance hall, far from the houses. But this was unexpected. And to its credit, it's also amazing. Here, no one looks at you with assumption or expectation. No one tries to kiss your boots or show you up or prove something to you or about you. You're just another face in the crowd. Just another stranger. And so are your friends. Remember when you had friends? Diablo stands to your left, dressed in a leather vest and low-rise jeans that really only he could pull off. His hair has been rebraided into cornrows and wrapped into a small knot at the back of his head. Their skin glistens with sweat under the pulsing lights of the concert floor, and they shoot you a toothy grin that's all fangs, but no bite, at least for now. Tvash. Tvash stands to your right, leaning against their cane, swaying to the music. Their hair is shorter than you know it now, styled into a messy two-block with a fade. Ta wears a top that's little more than a leather harness and some fishnets, as well as red velvet trousers and all kinds of gleaming silver jewelry. They're not wearing those tinted glasses, they only start doing that after you killed me, and their exposed black eyes are flashing with excitement. Ta elbows you, a small grin on the wolf-like mouth. When Aditi told me I was going to the dance hall tonight, I can't say I expected to end up here, but I am glad I decided to wear the fishnets under my silks anyway.
And Ro rolls their hazel eyes, trying very hard to hide the blush that is starting to form on their brown skin. And they just kind of elbow Tvash and say, well, somebody should have told me in advance because I feel like I stick out like a sore thumb. And
what are you wearing, Ro?
Yeah. Ro is still in rare masquerade dance hall outfit because, like he said, Diablo didn't tell us where we were going afterwards or that we were going to play hooky at all, so they were not prepared for this. And they are wearing this very beautiful, intricate lenga in hues of yellows and oranges. They have their dupatta that they've tied sideways on their body so that it doesn't go anywhere. And their hair, which was supposed to be out and long and proper, they have put up now haphazardly into two buns on each side so that it stays out of the way. And that is, I think, the most that Ray was able to do to make themselves comfortable in this space. But otherwise, kind of in this large concert area, every time Ro moves and spins, that lenga skirt, I think, like billows out and takes up so much space around them as they do. And this was what, like a year after, or a year before, sorry, before I killed you, before I was...
Time is a funny thing, Jean. I think what matters more is that this is one of the happiest nights of your life. Here, among the crowd, here with Tvash, with Diablo, you are anonymous. You're free. It's a feeling you've never experienced before. It's a feeling I never got to experience. And it is more than intoxicating, it's clarifying. Here in the crowd, you get to decide who you are, who you could be. You get to decide that. Would I resent you if I actually knew? Maybe. I mean, how could I not? I was only human once. But more than that, I know I would be happy for you. So, tell me, Ro, who are you when nobody's watching?
Ro is like a deer getting its legs for the first time. Ro is a little clumsy. Ro is a little full of the euphoria that comes with the freedom, the joy of getting to just be. And there is a lack of awareness of their body that they are not used to at all. Usually they are so hyper aware, hyper vigilant of where their hands are, where their shoulders are, what is their posture like. And here I think Ray just lets themselves loose, and in a way that is perhaps not considerate of the people around them. And so I think they keep bumping into other people, but all, I think, lighthearted interactions where Ro like apologizes and laughs and, you know, starts to dance with some of these other people that are around them. And it's just what it is. And there's uncertainty there too. Like I said, Ro has never felt this before. It's like taking weights off of you and then feeling like you're falling because there's nothing to ground you anymore. And so Ro moves about, but can't help but feel like there's nothing to keep them, nothing to tell them what they're supposed to do, what they're supposed to be, and that's it's a little scary, but it is so exhilarating at the same time.
The band currently playing does a final riff to raucous applause, and then they exit the stage. And the next band climbs on and they start setting up. And as the crowd around you settles down out of dancing, they start ambiently chatting between these sets. You and Tvash both notice Diablo straightening. He nudges the two of you, looking at you with an almost nervous expression. That's rare. Something's wrong. And you follow Diablo's gaze to the singer up on stage that's currently setting up a mic. And you see a handsome mixed black and tie person with light brown skin and this short wavy hair shaved on the sides. He wears a white t-shirt that's tied into a knot above his stomach, which is showing off this kind of dense happy trail and just truly gratuitous musculature. And Tvash raises an eyebrow at Diablo with a flash of recognition in their brown eyes. Rather, with a flash of recognition in their black eyes. That's him, isn't it? The guy that abandoned you after you got turned? And Diablo gives Tvash a look as you also gawp. Wasn't just him that abandoned me. All of my friends did.
That's Liam?
Worse. That's Liam, right? Diablo's jaw works a little, looking at the two of you. Just as you could never quite hide from Diablo, Diablo could never quite hide from you either. Yes, that's Liam. Just, Ro, I've been thinking about maybe trying to patch things up with him and that bridge. What do you think?
Does he deserve that?
Tvash also raises their eyes, looking at Diablo, and chimes in, yeah, Diablo, does he deserve that? I'd like to give him at least the chance. I think everyone deserves that.
Well, if that's what you want, then yeah, I say go for it, and we'll be right here.
Yeah, Diablo, we've got your back. Thanks. And at this point, the lead singer steps up to the mic and says in a gratuitously honeyed voice, "How are we doing tonight, paradise?" And the crowd erupts into drunken cheers and raucous applause, and Diablo cups his hands around his mouth and whoops. And at that, the singer's dark brown eyes land on the three of you. And Ro, you've gotten very good at reading expressions at this point. One day, you'll even surpass me. Why does this singer's look surprise you?
Because there is no true recognition in his face when he looks at the three of us. I mean, sure, Liam had never met me or Tvash, didn't know who we were, that's fine, but Diablo? There should have been something far more intimate, affectionate, soft, anger even, in that face, but instead there was nothing. Like he was too cool to remember Diablo, too cool to remember what he had done. I questioned Diablo's taste in that moment, to be quite honest.
Well, the muscles do make a good case. And Liam looks away from your group with that nothingness glazing his eyes, and then he addresses the crowd again. His drummer strikes up a beat, and the band plunges into their first song. And Diablo's mouth is a little tight. He caught that empty look as well, but there's still a hopeful expression on his face. Like, there's a chance for amends. There's a chance for a fresh start. And Liam's band plays their set, which is nothing revolutionary, Ro, but it's serviceable. I mean, you've heard our sister knock out better on the baby piano when she was 6, but still, it's fine. And when they're done, the crowd erupts into cheers. And as they get off the stage, Diablo jerks his head. Come on. And then he hops up onto the platform and approaches his ex's band. You and Tvash shadow him closely, and the three of you find Liam with the rest of his bandmates and a couple of groupies here and there. They're all smoking cigarettes, and they're all shooting the shit before they head down into the pit. And as Diablo approaches, Liam glances over, and then, just like when he was up on stage, he looks away. What an asshole. But that doesn't dissuade Diablo. Diablo stops a couple of feet away. Hey, Liam. Liam clears his throat, but he doesn't respond. He doesn't even look at Diablo, even though he's literally feet away from him. But Diablo presses on. Come on, man. Don't play this game. Look, I liked your set. And at that, Liam looks over his shoulder dismissively. Sorry, I'm not doing meet and greets with fans right now. And a ripple goes through the group. All of his little groupies, they put up their hands to hide giggles, they whisper, and their eyes flick up and down Diablo's entire body with judgment. And Diablo's jaw works again, and he says, you know what? Forget it. I don't even know why I fucking tried. And he turns, starts to walk away. So does Tvash. But before your group can take more than 3 collective steps away, Liam mutters under his breath, but not so quietly that you can't hear. Oh, he was always so needy. I mean, it was never even that deep, seriously. And his group giggles even louder.
Well, you see, You had told me that I couldn't say how I felt. You never told me I couldn't show it. The curse can't get us that way, right?
Loopholes, Ro, loopholes. They're not for jumping through. They're a noose if you're not careful.
Well, it's a good thing I didn't jump. I leapt. And I leapt across those groupies, clinging on to Liam, hanging on to his every word as if it was God's fucking gift to Inferno. And I decked that motherfucker right across the face.
Yeah, you sure did. You know, to this day, Liam's jaw has never quite felt the same. After that punch, had to get dental work done. He swallowed a crown.
I'm quite proud of
And
that.
we see now, in the present, Liam staggering backward. Bam! His body hits the ground from the force of your sucker punch. He's nursing his face. There's blood spurting everywhere, and he's babbling, "What the fuck?" And the rest of his groupies are like, half of them have split off and are like mewling over him. The other half turned to look at you. And Diablo goes, "Oh, bro." But there's a kind of like smile on his face. Tvash kind of rolls his shoulders, leans on his cane, and goes, "Oh, fuck, okay. Well, I guess we're doing this." And a brawl breaks out. At the end of the day, even though Diablo is a vampire, ultimately you are just outnumbered. There are too many band members, too many groupies, and they literally kick you out of the subway tunnel. They literally kick and punch and shove you out of this derelict tunnel. And now we find the three of you on the curb outside the train station. All kinds of bruised and battered, but definitely not more battered than Liam's ego, which is all that makes it worth it. And Diablo's kind of like leaning there with his hands flat out on the concrete, drinking in the light of the moon, a bruise blooming on the side of his face as he laughs. Oh, I can't believe you did that. And he lowers his head and looks at you, Ro.
I think Ro is on one side of Diablo and Tvash is on the other, and we've been kind of sitting there with them together. Ro a little bit like, I think there's an ice pack that Ray is holding over their knuckles that, from the hand that they had used to punch Liam, and they just laugh. They laugh so large and so open and so free here. And when they're done, their hair, I think, has like partially started to come undone in the middle of that fight from their buns. And they look sideways at Diablo and at Tvash, and they say, "Well, I would never, ever let somebody hurt you."
Oh, that's almost embarrassing because neither of you are vampires, and yet you were the ones that leapt to defend me.
Well, I know that you would do the same if the tables were turned, though I will say I would never go for someone like Liam.
He wasn't always this much of a douchebag. Okay, he was a little bit more tolerable back when he and I were actually together, but I guess my gut instinct was right. He's just a fair weather friend. I was there for him during the roughest time of his life, but for me, I guess it was too much.
He's not worth it, you know. You have been just such a light for me in Inferno, you know? Like, nobody else is quite as honest as you. I don't know, I get this feeling every time I talk to somebody, like they're not quite sharing everything. But I never get that with you.
Well, it's because they all claim houses, and you're a Thakrar, and you're a Lanius, and I want both of you.
Oh.
I don't want to have to choose. Never have. Guess that's why I'm bisexual.
And Ro, I think, like, leans in and rests their shoulder on Diablo, or rests their head on Diablo's shoulder and says, "You can have us both. As long as I get to have both of you too."
Tvash laughs and also leans their head in, so they're mirroring what you're doing, right? Diablo lets out a little sigh and places both of his arms around the two of your waists and pulls the two of you in. And Tvash says, seriously, more now. Diablo, you know that Ro and I aren't fair weather friends, right? We'll always be here for you. You can count on it. Well, don't go around making promises you can't keep. Not in my nature. Right, Ro?
Right. We will always, always be here for you, Diablo. And each other, right?
Right. Right. Alright, you two gay people, come on. It's a long ride back to Inferno.
Just because you're bisexual, you can't. Okay.
The three of you, giggling and chuckling and laughing, pull yourselves up from this curb, start making your way back to the trains, the actual working trains, not that derelict subway tunnel. And gosh, one of the things that really stands out to you, Ro, is just how comfortable you are in this memory, in this present, this past, this future. You're so comfortable with Diablo and Tvash. You're so open with each other. There's a genuine embracing of friendship here. It's not like that anymore, is it?
Well, I think we know who we have to blame for that.
I wouldn't be so sure if I were you. And Tvash takes that ice bag off from your knuckles as the three of you start to walk and says with concern, let me see how the bruise is looking.
I think I'll be okay, but...
Come on, let me see.
Okay. And Ro gently, I think, hands their hand over to Tvash to look over all of the bruises on their knuckles.
It's starting to bloom into a rainbow, Ro. It's quite nasty, real gnarly, and you invent quite a satisfying excuse for how this happened the next morning, but that doesn't matter right now. What matters is that Tvash takes your fingers with a look of genuine deep concern, despite the bruises being surface deep, lifts those colored knuckles up to their lips and kisses them. And pain, once again, pulls you back to the present. Diablo leans away from your hand, revealing an intricate network of white ink across the knuckles. And for a moment, that memory of the bruises is superimposed over the present, but then it falls away, like gossamer strands in the light of dawn. Diablo studies you carefully. You're not the only one who's good at reading faces. And when he speaks, you get the sense he's not just asking about the tattoo. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking that pain lives in our memories more than it does in our in the time that we spend in it. Do you remember Liam?
I try not to.
I mean, the actual person aside, I quite liked getting to go to the concert together all those years ago.
You're feeling quite nostalgic tonight, aren't you?
Can't help it, something about the way that the needle touches my skin. It's like it's bringing up puddles up to the surface well water that I didn't know was there.
You know, that actually happens quite often here in my tattoo shop. Some people like to put on music, other people like to talk the whole time, but other people just sit there, and they fall somewhere deep inside themselves. I can't always tell where they go, but with you, Liam, that night, it was this hand, wasn't it? The one you decked him with.
Yes, it was, and it actually took quite a long time to heal. I didn't think it was going to take that long. But...
Well, if it makes you feel better, he actually billed me for the dental work.
You're kidding.
Of course I ignored it, but you did quite a number on him.
Well, he deserved it. And to my credit, he never bothered you ever again.
No, he did not. And Diablo smiles. But there's something else in that smile, too. The same thing you almost saw in my smile all those years ago. The great tragedy of Diablo Suarez is, of course, that he didn't claim a house because he wanted to have it all. He wanted to have you and Tvash. But in the end, it didn't matter. He lost them. He lost you. He too lost what the three of you had together. But he's never said as much to you, not in those words, and not right now. Instead, Diablo does what Diablo does best. He talks about it without really talking about it. It's where you're comfortable, Jean. And he knows this. He knows not to disturb the web too much, or else it will break. And he'll lose what few gossamer strands remain between the two of you. I know things are different now. They have been for a while. But things that have changed, they can change again. Burnt bridges can be rebuilt. New choices can be made.
You know, I always liked that about Diablo. That he always knew just how much to say without pushing someone away. I think that's why I was so drawn to them. Why I was always pulled so close. And Ro, again, lets this possibility of change hang in the air between them. And I think similarly, Ro would never say anything outright directly. But I think they look at Diablo's face, they look at those hazel eyes, they look at the ways in which Diablo has changed since that concert night. You can see it on his face in the ways that they haven't, because after all, they're a vampire and there's only so much that changes. And they feel simultaneously like there is a gulf between them and like there is no space at all. Maybe some things can change. But it's hard to build a bridge out of ash.
All I'm saying is, I'm still here. I haven't been turned to ash, have I? Neither has your Shrike. We're all still alive, in our own way, as long as our hearts still beat, however slowly. There's always another night, Ro.
There's always another night, and another, and another, and another.
You may think it tedium, but I think it opportunity. And Diablo flexes his tattooing hand. You know, I think we've given your torso enough of a break at this point. Ready for the sternum?
Yes, I am ready, especially because I think if you keep going on my hands...
You'll cry
let's
blood.
just...
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
okay.
I really don't like when that happens. It's hard to get out.
Okay. I'll spare you the embarrassment. And the laundry. And Diablo leans in. That needle begins to buzz. And then he presses the ink against your sternum, directly over your heart. As pain once again begins to bloom through you, you can almost hear your dead heart squeezing again, bidding your still blood to run. Your heart used to beat, Ro. It used to sing. And with that bittersweet nostalgia comes a third memory, one that pulses in rhythm to the needle working over your heart. You are still alive. You are in the Shrike's nest. One of the shrike's nests, to be precise. Unlike House Thakrar, House Lanius has no centralized lair, no grand haveli. Instead, the shrikes claim secret, transient abodes across Inferno, meeting places and homes that change with the seasons, the weeks, the days. As the architects and builders of the city, House Lanius gets privileged access to almost all physical spaces. Why claim a single building when all of them could be their home? I've always admired such brazenness, such open tenacity. Of course, I never admitted it. But you also always admired it, didn't you? Even before you started fooling around with Tvash.
I thought their arrogance was amusing. A challenge.
You thought their arrogance was attractive.
Well, like I said, it was a challenge.
There's something thrilling about sleeping in a different place each night, reinventing yourself according to the physical space around you. But it's not a true reinvention. The shrikes don't abide that, just as the spiders don't abide connection. Lanius is trapped, just like we are, just like I was. But it's not a web that confines them, it's a nest, an endless house of brick and stone with walls taller than the sun. The sky is but a tiny circle above their heads, but they can never reach it, no matter how high they fly. By now, you've been to many of Tvash's personal nests. They range from cozy brownstones to the tops of soaring bell towers to ancient manors on the outskirts of town. They vary in age, size, architectural style, furnishings, amenities, but one thing remains constant in each place you go. It's empty, transient, void of character. None of Tvash's personal effects line the walls, the desks, the closets. Do they even have any personal effects? There is no choir of songbirds in the halls, no shuffling feet or conversations to be had behind closed doors. It's only ever you and Tvash, for better and for worse. Tonight, you are in one of Tvash's favorite haunts. It's a penthouse suite of a luxury high-rise, 3 stories of exposed brick, industrial fixtures, and floor-to-ceiling windows that offer a breathtaking view of Inferno's bustling nightlife. You can see the entire city from up here, an endless horizon of glimmering lights and the sanguine bends of the Red River. But there's a different view that you've spent your evening fixated on. You're in a massive bed of silk and cotton. There are more pillows here than the eye can count. The sheets are freshly made and drenched in sweat. Tvash is pressed into your side, breathing heavily, their short hair a messy halo around their head. They sink into the pillows with a deep, content sigh. And you look at them with a particular expression. What expression do you reserve only for the Shrike?
It is an expression of breathlessness. Like, this is the last moment that they will ever have in this entire world, and they would not want to be anywhere else for it. They have a softness to their face, the mask completely gone, nowhere to be found. Their hazel eyes reflecting the moonlight from the windows coming in, and they smile. Genuinely. It reaches their eyes. They smile at Tvash here. And I think their hands are absent-mindedly running along Tavash's shoulder, his arm, his hands, his fingers. And they're just taking him in. The Lanius nests have always felt so beautifully, wonderfully private and quiet. in a way that the Thakrar never has, always bustling with people and activity and expectations. And this has always felt like a place just for us, like Inferno doesn't even exist here.
Feeling your gaze, Tvash opens one midnight black eye, and they turn onto their side, prop the head on a hand, and Ta looks at you with unashamed, open admiration. You're staring, Spider.
When I have something so beautiful to stare at, how can you blame me, Shrike?
Oh no, don't you flatter me. Except, yes, please do go on.
Well, I mean, you know that I think you are the most beautiful work of art I have ever laid my eyes on.
How can that be possible when you exist?
If I could frame you and hang you in the Recluse Gallery, you know I would.
Oh, please, don't put me in the Recluse Gallery. Put me on top of a skyscraper, looking over all Inferno, where from the streets they see but a speck, but only you and I know the truth. The real valleys and curves of my face, all the crenellations and shadows of your eyes. I love that only I see you.
And Ro turns over on her back and looks up at that ceiling that is so high above them, impossibly high. And Ray reaches out a hand, painting a picture for Tvash. What if we could build something together? A art gallery on top of a skyscraper, something that looms over Inferno, so that no matter where you are, you look up and you see beautiful works of art.
I would love that. Art gallery on top of a skyscraper. Why not put a church on top of the art gallery too? And a mausoleum on top of that. Endless monuments reaching all the way up to the sun.
Never seeing its end, because it doesn't end.
I don't want this to end. And Tvash turns back to face you. Their hand reaches out, strokes the side of your face. They've always been so disarmingly open and honest with you about exactly what they want, exactly how they feel. There's so much emotion in Tvash all the time. You didn't realize this until the two of you started actually courting. It threatens to seep out of them, out of every hairline fracture in their own mask. It's a marvel no one else has ever noticed this, because Tvash is one of the most emotional, emotive, and passionate people you've ever met. And here that emotion washes over you like a red tide. I don't want this to end. I don't want this to end. Let's never end.
And Ro is always caught off guard whenever Tvash is so open and honest, because Ray could never, not even really fully with Tvash, although that's the closest that Ro ever gets, but Ro has never expressed their affection for Tvash so plainly. It's always been something that Ray talks around, circles around. You're a beautiful piece of art. What if we made an art gallery together? But never direct or plain. And they hear this from Tvash, and something swells in their chest, something that they instinctively feel like they have to push down, and they don't. But they don't let it come up onto their tongue either. And instead they laugh softly and they say, well, you and I will be turned soon, and so we will never end.
Oh, turned by our houses, you by that prophet of the Red River, that spider, and me by... And just as openly as they wore their affection, they openly wear their disdain about the idea. They kind of flop onto their back and make a bit of a show of it. Oh, but what if we didn't? They kind of pop back up to look at you.
Didn't
What
turn?
if we... No. What if we weren't turned by our houses? What if everything was different? Bro, what if we chose something else? What if you and I got turned together?
I don't know how we would be able to do that. I mean, our houses have very specific rituals and traditions of how.
Oh, that's all
people-
just pomp and circumstance. All you really need is someone with the gift of the river and someone else who's willing. And I'm willing. Are you willing?
Well, and kind of like sidestepping the question. Well, I mean, I don't think Astor would be. I mean, I know that, you know, she has the gift of the river, but I don't think that she would do this for us. Defy the houses?
Well, I'm not talking about Astor. Diablo. Come on, we both know someone. We're best friends with someone with the gift. He'd do it in a heartbeat for us.
Okay. Yeah. But, okay, what if instead we asked to get turned together? I mean, you and I have been doing this for so long, and I think that maybe they were wrong. Oh, maybe, okay, not wrong, but maybe the curse doesn't extend all the way. Maybe it gets weaker over time, and if we talk to...
The curse, row, come. And Tvash, with a sudden burst of alacrity and passion, they kind of swing their legs over the edge of the bed, they grab for their cane, and they gesture for you to follow. Come!
And Ro does. They follow, I think, like putting on like a robe tightly around their body, and they follow Tvash. A little bit nervous, a little bit hesitant, but drawn in by that passion, by that intensity, like they always have been. Something that they can't help but chase.
Tvash also grabs a robe, puts it on haphazardly. Half of it is like sliding off one shoulder. They like cinch it around the waist, and they lead you to the balcony. This beautiful balcony at the top of a skyscraper, and outside they slide the door open, and the night air past both of you, making the chiffon curtains just billow like memories of ghosts. And they let out a chuckle. They move forward, that cane clacking against the material of the balcony stone, and then they lean their hands against the railing of the balcony, take in a deep breath, and they shout at the top of their lungs out over into the city, "I love Rhododendron Thakrar!" Oh. How's that for your curse? Come on! Isn't this wonderful? Look! No one here can hear us. No one here can see us. What are you so scared of?
You know, I never said it back to them, right?
I do. They know it too, of course. How could they not?
I just think that I see how you feel, and I see how I feel, and if we talk to Aditi and Willow, maybe we could convince them.
I don't care about what Aditi or Willow think about us. I don't care. Their opinions, they don't matter to me at all. I mean, Aditi has never... I raised myself, really. She was only there to tell me when I failed. Which is fine. I prefer it that way. It's freedom, kind of, in its own way. And I know how much Willow means to you, and I know how involved Willow is with you, but I don't care. I just want us to be turned together. All that matters is what you want, what I want. What do you want? Ro, do you want this? And they reach forward and take both of your hands in theirs.
Ro had never allowed themselves to ask that question, let alone answer it. What do they want? Well, it's always mattered what Willow wants, what the House Thakrar wants, what it demands. It doesn't matter what Ro wants, but maybe... And looking into the Shrike's face, for the first time, I really did start thinking about what I wanted. I couldn't help it. I thought about you and what you said to me before you turned. But I really wanted. And Bro looks at Tvash, their hazel eyes into Tada's black ones. I want this too. I really do. But you have to promise me. And Ro gets closer to Tvash, closing that distance, holding his hands even tighter. You have to promise me something.
Anything. Anything.
I can't do this alone. I'm scared. My Shrike. My beautiful, beautiful, free Shrike. I'm scared. So, for us to do this, for us to really be together, for us to be turned together, and have what we both want, you have to be there. Every step of the way, you have to be by my side, okay?
That's easy. Darling, of course. Of course. Yes, I promise. I'll always be there for you in this, in life, in death, and in life again. I promise, I promise, I promise.
That as long as you're there, I think I could do anything.
I know I can do anything as long as we're together. And that big smile blooms across their face, lights it up like the sun. And they lean in and they kiss you. For the third and final time, pain jolts you back to the present. There is a pain over your heart. There is a pain in your heart. It is a pain that will never go away, no matter how much time passes. I'm sorry, Jean, but that's the price of love. And what a heavy price it is. Diablo pulls away, and your finished tattoo is revealed in its full glory. How does it compare to what you envisioned?
It looks nothing like Ro had planned. And that's why it's perfect. It is unpredictable. It is a little messy. It has touches of Diablo within them, naturally, as his hands were the ones to weave these threads on Ro's body. And they love it.
It's beautiful. Diablo puts his equipment away, pulls off his gloves, tosses them into a bin. Then he looks at you very carefully and deeply, and he says, "This one's on the house."
Well, you know that. You are always, always welcome at the Thakrar Haveli if there is anything at all that you need.
Of course. Listen, Ro. I know you're planning something with that bloodbath of yours. Just be careful. Okay?
I always am.
If you ever wanted to do something that wasn't this, know that you have at least one friend in your corner.
And Ro smiles softly for a brief moment. remembering the feeling of possibility that opened up before them when Ray thought that that was something that was going to happen for them. And they sit in that moment for only a moment in indulgence that they allow themselves before they come back. Thank you. But my house needs me.
Of course. House Thakrar calls. Diablo nods, feeling that mask come back on, the wall come back up. He kind of scoots back on his stool and... Oh, Ro. Your past selves. They're dead. But they're unburied. They haunt you. Who you were is gone. But... And Diablo says, things can always change.
I suppose they can. The only difference is, can we control that change?
I have spoken at length with the good abbot about the nature of our destinies, and while I do believe there are some things only in the control of the Red Tides, I also believe that we can always choose how we carry out our legacies. That's on us. For worse. And for better.
And Ro, I think, gets a little bit closer to Diablo and puts her hand on his forearm and squeezes gently and affectionately. Thank you so much for the tattoo, Diablo. It's beautiful, as always.
You're welcome. Just keep it wrapped for now. Have a safe trip back home.
Thank you. And Ro turns to leave.
Ro, when you exit dark matter, you are torn open in more ways than one. Memory, intimacy, pain, all of these sensations bleed together until they are a muddled mess beneath your skin, inside your veins, between your blood cells. Your feet lead you, not toward the Haveli, not toward the ICMA, but toward the Inferno Common. Why? Where are you going?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure where I'm going, but I'm just going. I don't do that.
No, you don't. You're a very intentional creature, Ro, as I was, as our mother is, as Yara is. It is a rare instance in which we listen to our bodies instead of our minds. But the body remembers what the mind forgets.
I didn't really think that it held so much ache in it.
You're torn open, Ro. You're torn open. And whenever a door is cracked open, there's always the opportunity for a shadow to slip in, for a ghost to follow. And so your feet lead you to the archway. Ah, yes, the Inferno Archway, built by our ancestor and by theirs, a monument to a friendship once forged, a bond once shattered. Isn't that familiar? Why are we doomed to repeat ourselves?
I've asked myself the same question pretty much every single day since I killed you.
This cycle cannot be broken. The cycle breaks you. You stand, Ro. You stand within these shadows of finely hewn stone underneath that archway. And you bleed. You bleed into the shallow current that feeds into the Red River. You bleed into memory. You bleed into what was, what wasn't, what could have been, what could still be. You bleed as I bled, torn open in more ways than one, and you remember. You remember something you refuse to look at. But now that you're here, in the place where it happened, it's different. A detail draws your eye, a thread in the crimson tapestry sprung loose. This is how it always was. You just never let yourself look. Do you look now? Do you remember what was forgotten?
I can't look away.
You are dead. And you are alive. And you are becoming. And I am dying. I am on the ground, beneath the archway. You are kneeling above me. Your hands are wet with my blood, and the rest of it is spilling out into the crimson river in heavy tidal waves. My second life is leaving my eyes, once brown, now yellow, now turning brown again in second death. You're saying something to me. What is it?
Astor, I love you. Please, please don't leave me, okay? I'm sorry. I love you. Okay? Don't go.
I am looking at you with an expression you cannot recognize. Between your tears, my hand is reaching out toward you. Do you take it?
I do. And it's covered in your blood, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I love you so much. Don't go.
You don't see her, Ro, but I do. In my final moments before the darkness leaves me and that endless river we call oblivion and salvation takes me, I see her. Our mother. There is a noise you do remember. A noise that is terrible and unrecognizable to you. A noise your memory had shuttered away as some odd aberration of grief-stricken haze. But I know what it is. I see what it is. Past you. Past my blood on your hands. Past your tears. I see our mother. Kneeling. Clutching her face. Weeping blood. Screaming her dead heart out. A broken wail for her children. Both of them dead. One of them gone forever. You don't see this and you don't know this. Not yet. But she blames herself. She fears she loved her children too much. That's why doom took us both. She didn't realize that her body was a lit match, and that holding us close to her burns. It sets us alight, as she was set alight by her own forebears. This is the worst night of her life. That's something you have in common. It binds you closer than blood. I speak. You've never had to choose your last words before, Ro, so I get that it was confusing. And when you're dying, you don't really know how much time you've got until it's all gone. I chose 10 words, perfectly crafted from me to you, to tell you what you needed to know. But just when I was really starting to get there, That's just how it goes sometimes. You heard the first 6, now I need you to remember the last 4. Because they've always been there, Ro, and I need you to hear me now. See you on the other side. I love you too.